The null wave hit the UNS Resolute without warning, a silent storm that killed every circuit and screen in the ship. Darkness swallowed the bridge. Emergency lights failed. For 5 seconds, the only sound was breathing.
All hands, manual override. Go to mechanical control. Now.
Compressed air hissed, and something deep in the hull clanked as old linkages engaged.
Bridge. Engineering. Reactors on bypass. She's holding, but we're running on muscle and valves.
Helm responding. I have manual yaw and pitch, low thrust, flying by the seat of my pants.
Warm amber light bloomed across the bridge, thrown by thumb-sized bulbs that hadn't been lit in a century. Mark crossed to the viewport. Outside, the blue pulse was fading, and where a battle had been, there was only silence. Beyond the glass, the alien fleet drifted, dead hulks, cold and broken, tumbling without power. The Resolute hung among them, a single candle in a graveyard.
Damage reports. Now, what do we still have?
Minimal engines. Life support on bypass. Sensors show the pulse wave is still expanding, straight toward New Haven.
Reactors stable at 40%. We've got maybe 20 hours before the manual linkages start cracking.
Any word from the rest of the battle group?
Only the ones with manual fallbacks. The automated ships are dead in the water.
Mark stared at the tactical plot. The wave would reach New Haven in 3 hours. 3 hours until 1 million people went dark.
Then we stop it at the source, the Quill Synod command station. It's the only place that can shut down that pulse.
The nearest Synod station was deep inside the debris field, hours away at full burn, assuming the manual engines held.
Commander, I can plot a course through the wreckage, but at this thrust, we'll be cutting it to minutes.
Then we cut it to minutes. Helm, set course. Engineering, give me everything she's got. We're not losing that colony.
On the Quill Synod command station, Admiral Vishar watched the null wave flatten every enemy signature on his display.
Victory. Complete and absolute. The galaxy's machines are silent, and soon their civilizations will follow.
But then his own fleet status reports came in. Not a single Synod warship responded.
Our ships are dark, unacceptable. Engage manual overrides on every vessel at once.
The manual systems had been neglected for generations. Rusted linkages snapped, gears seized. The Admiral's own ship was dead.
Then we deploy the Dreadnought, the ancient one. It was built before automation. Prepare it for immediate launch.
Far from the station, the Resolute threaded a path through the drifting carcasses of alien warships.
Easy, Elena. She's not a dancer. Treat her like the heavy cruiser she is.
Don't worry, Commander. I've flown worse through tighter spots.
Behind them, a monstrous shape, detached from the Synod station, a relic built to be flown by hand. Commander Mark Reed called his senior officers to the bridge.
Every human warship has a manual fallback. We never trusted machines to do what a crew could.
These systems haven't seen full combat stress in decades. The linkages are already showing microfractures.
The ship groaned as manual thrusters fought the debris field.
Distress call from civilian transport Horizon. She took the pulse dead on. No manual controls. 600 people drifting.
600. But the colony holds 1 million. We can't abandon them. What's the closest ship?
Auckland and Kyoto are on manual, 10 minutes from Horizon.
Divert them to rescue. We press on alone. Every minute, that wave gets closer to New Haven.
The Resolute shot forward, alone. The weight of 1 million lives on its aging frame. Synod defense drones erupted from the wreckage. Automated hunters on a separate command frequency.
Hostile drones, 12 marks. They're ignoring the pulse. Speed and targeting active.
All hands. Point defense manual. Elena, you have the firing solution under the stick.
Elena gripped the analog turret controls and fired. The first drone shattered under a stream of tungsten slugs.
She's heavy, but responsive. 3 down, they're jinking harder than a simulator.
A drone clipped the Resolute's port engine nacelle, metal screaming against the hull.
Bridge, that hit cracked the manual reactor lines. We're venting coolant, pressure dropping fast.
The clock reset. The colony was 2 hours away, but the reactor wouldn't last that long.
Roland, hold it together. Elena, push the engines. We're not stopping for anything.
The Resolute limped forward, trailing a ghost of coolant, the battle station growing on the horizon.
Bridge, reactors spiking. Manual bypass is overheating. We either vent plasma or we melt down in 10 minutes.
Options. We can't vent into open space without cooking ourselves.
If we hug a dead cruiser's hull, its shadow might absorb the heat. Risky, but it's that or a core breach.
Elena banked the Resolute into the shadow of a shattered alien cruiser, the hull groaning under the strain.
Venting now. Hold her steady.
A plume of superheated gas erupted beside the dead cruiser, the Resolute shaking violently.
Reactors stabilizing. But we've lost permanent capacity. She won't do more than 30% now.
Commander, signal from the horizon. All civilians safe, but the Auckland and Kyoto took heavy debris damage.
Understood. They did their job. Now we finish ours.
The Resolute pushed on, slower now, the Dreadnought's silhouette barely visible against the station's lights. The Dreadnought's engines flared, a manual ignition sequence older than the Synod's empire.
Energy spike. She's launching, Commander, massive, ballistic cannons, zero automation.
They built a manual ship too, so it's muscle against muscle.
This ancient hull will crush them. Fire the cannons as soon as they are in range.
The Dreadnought turned, its turrets the size of destroyers tracking the tiny human cruiser.
We have no missiles left, railgun only. Elena, take us in close, under their minimum elevation.
At this range, 1 hit and we're gone. But they can't depress their guns if we're on their hull.
Then we hug their hull and blast our way through. Full burn.
The Resolute accelerated, a wounded predator sprinting at its larger foe. The colony now had 90 minutes. The Resolute weaved through a storm of ballistic shells, each detonating close enough to rattle the bridge. Then a shell struck home, shearing through the port hull and venting atmosphere into the void.
Commander, hull breach on decks 4 through 7. Casualties reported.
Power's fluctuating. We can't take another hit like that.
Then we end this. Elena, ram the bridge tower. Full speed.
The Resolute slammed into the Dreadnought's command section, crumpling armor and spilling fire. Inside the Dreadnought, Admiral Vishar's console shattered. As the lights died, the Resolute's prow embedded deep in the alien hull, twisted metal locking them together.
She's stuck fast, but the Dreadnought's bridge is gone. She's dead in the water.
Good. Now we board. Everyone with a weapon to the airlock. The pulse timer has 40 minutes.
The boarding party pushed into the Dreadnought's dark corridors, flashlights cutting through smoke and drifting sparks.
They're dug in behind that barricade. Roland, suppressing fire. I am going left.
Got 'em pinned. Move, Commander.
They broke through and stormed the ravaged bridge, consoles shattered, the Admiral gone.
Where is he? The station. He fled to the station.
A dying Synod officer rasped a warning. The pulse shut-off was in the station core, but wired with a pressure trigger.
A booby trap, of course. Vishar wants us to kill ourselves trying to save the colony.
There's an umbilical connecting to the station. I can override the hatch manually, but it'll take minutes we don't have.
Everyone through. Now, Roland, get that hatch open. We'll deal with the trap when we find it.
They crossed into the station, every footfall a gamble, the pulse 30 minutes from ending 1,000,000 lives. The station's corridors were a maze of failing bioluminescent lights. Ahead, energy turrets hummed to life, untouched by the pulse.
Those turrets run on residual power, not circuits. Take cover.
2 crewmen fell in the first volley, the price of every step closer to the core.
No time to stop. The living still need us.
A sealed bulkhead blocked their path, its manual override panel dark and unresponsive.
I can jump the solenoid manually, cross the wires, hope the breaker holds. Just give me a minute.
The door groaned open. More minutes bled away, the pulse wave eating the distance to New Haven.
You are too late, humans. The null wave will devour your colony long before you reach my core.
You forgot one thing, Admiral. We don't need machines to finish what we started.
The team pushed deeper into the station. The pulse timer now read 15 minutes. The core chamber was vast. A single massive lever stood in the center, wired to a pressure plate on the floor.
You've found it, but only I know the safe sequence. Step on that plate, and nerve gas fills the chamber instantly.
He's rigged it to kill us the second we try. We need another way.
10 minutes. There's no other way. I won't ask anyone to walk into that for me.
There is no other way. Sacrifice yourselves. It changes nothing. The wave will reach your colony regardless.
Everyone out. Seal the door behind you.
Commander, let me do it. I know the mechanics better. I can bypass it.
I set out. That's an order. If I don't make it, get back to the ship and warn the colony.
The team retreated, the heavy door grinding shut. Mark stood alone with the lever, the weight of 1,000,000 souls on the pressure plate. Behind the glass, Vishar watched, waiting for the human to die. Mark knelt beside the pressure plate, his fingers tracing the trigger mechanism. Outside, Roland cut the speaker wire, silencing Vishar's taunts.
Simple engagement. Jam the release before stepping off, but the final lock is tied to the liver itself.
He pulled out his multi-tool and began bypassing the first safety catch. Sweat dripped onto the cold metal as the wall timer climbed to 7 minutes. The second catch released, but the plate remained on a hair trigger. Only pulling the lever would let him remove the final block.
Damned, catch -22. Pull the lever, and maybe live, or stand here and watch them all die.
You see, it's designed to kill the one who tries to save others. You are trapped.
There's always a way. You just forgot how to fix things with your hands.
He braced himself, one hand on the lever, his heart pounding against the countdown.
I will not let you win. If you want to die so badly, let me help.
Green gas erupted from hidden vents, flooding the chamber in seconds. Mark held his breath and pulled the lever down with every ounce of strength. The lever engaged with a deep clunk, but a secondary charge detonated at the base, hurling Mark across the chamber. He slammed into the far wall and crumpled to the floor, the green mist swallowing him. Outside, Roland watched through the small window. His commander was down.
Number. Seal it. Seal the door before the gas reaches the corridor.
The heavy door slammed shut, locking Mark inside with the gas and the silence. On the other side of the glass, Vishar laughed. A cold, hollow sound. The chamber was now a tomb, and the wave still raced toward the colony. The Resolute's bridge was silent. Elena stared at the wave monitor. The blue front flickered, stuttered, but held its shape.
The lever worked, but there's a secondary node on the station hull. It's still powering the wave.
We have 1 railgun round left. I'll make it count.
In the gas-filled core chamber, a finger twitched. Mark opened his eyes. The override panel on the far wall glowed amber through the green mist.
Get up. 1,000,000 people are still breathing, and they need me to keep it that way.
He dragged his body across the floor, every breath fire, every joint screaming. Elena settled into the manual targeting chair, her scope painting the node on the station's dark hull. Mark's bloody fingers closed on the manual override switch. He pulled. A distant clunk. The secondary node's shield retracted, exposing its core to the void. Mark found the secondary panel on his knees, a simple array of mechanical switches. He flipped a toggle marked in alien script. The ship-wide broadcast channel crackled to life.
Admiral Vishar, you killed our machines. You forgot we're not machines.
His voice echoed through the station, through the dead dreadnought, into every Synod receiver still listening.
Impossible. He should be dead.
You built a weapon to kill every machine, but humanity simply switched to manual.
He slammed his palm down on the secondary shutdown switch. The null wave stuttered. Across the galaxy, the blue front flickered and began to curl inward. The Synod officer who had given the warning, dying, whispered into his radio. He got the off. The pulse that was meant to end warfare instead ended with a human voice and a hand on a switch. The null wave dissolved into a harmless shimmer, vanishing mere seconds before reaching New Haven.
Firing now.
The Resolute's last railgun round punched through the secondary node, ending the pulse forever.
Number. I can still destroy this station, if I can just...
The trigger mechanism clicked uselessly. The firing pin, centuries old, had worn smooth. Human Marines breached the corridor. Weapons leveled. Vishar raised his hands in surrender.
Bridge, we have the Admiral. What about the commander?
A separate team breached the core chamber, the gas now vented. They found Mark slumped against the override panel. He was barely breathing, but he was breathing. The battle was over. New Haven was safe, and humanity had proven that no weapon could break a species that never let go of the wheel. They carried Mark to the Resolute's med bay, his lungs scorched, each breath a fight. The ship's medical team relied on manual ventilation bags and basic monitors. No AI to diagnose the damage.
Commander's stable but critical. Fleet report, 9,000 automated ships lost. But manual fallback vessels saved an estimated 2 million civilians.
The Resolute's hull was a patchwork of welds, her reactor limping at 10%.
We're docked with the fleet now. New Haven is sending repair crews. They're asking about the commander.
Around them, the surviving human ships flashed their running lights in silent salute. The manual doctrine, once a relic, would now become standard across the fleet. In the old engineering logs, someone had scribbled, "Never let the machines rob you of your own hands."
He did it. The crazy fool actually pulled it off.
Mark remained unconscious, but his hands, still wrapped in bandages, had already changed the galaxy. Admiral Vishar sat alone in a converted storage room, its bioluminescent walls now cold and dark.
My entire species forgot how to fight with our hands. We trusted the machines to do it for us. That human commander. He walked into a room full of poison, knowing he might die, and still he pulled the lever. We built a weapon to kill every machine. They built a species that simply switched to manual. That was their true weapon.
The null wave had been meant to end warfare. Instead, it ended the age of absolute trust in automation. Across the galaxy, empires that had laughed at humanity's antique ships now read the after-action reports in silence. They had seen a single human cruiser, gutted and burning, fly manually through a dead fleet and win. No one would forget the lesson. Never underestimate a species that keeps a hand on the wheel.
Perhaps that is not a weakness, it is a terrible strength.
And somewhere in the quiet, the Resolute drifted on, its crew keeping a hand on the wheel, just as they always had. Intercepted transmissions revealed the Synod's pre-pulse warning to over 40 civilizations. The message described humanity as a species that could fight without machines, a dangerous aberration. It was meant to prepare them for conquest. Instead, it planted fear. The empires that had planned to test humanity's borders quietly canceled their expeditions. Those who had laughed at our archaic ships now read the after-action reports in silence. The null wave was meant to end the age of machines. It began the age of manual respect. Humanity never sought this reputation, but it did not refuse it. The galaxy learned a new lesson. Never test a species that keeps its hands on the wheel. A single human cruiser, gutted and burning, had redefined warfare for a century. The Synod's ultimate weapon had backfired, making humanity feared across the stars, not for our machines, but for our stubborn, indomitable hands. Mark opened his eyes to the dim amber glow of the Med Bay. A weak smile crossed his cracked lips.
Welcome back, Commander. The fleet is rebuilding. The Synod has surrendered unconditionally.
What about the manual backups? Did they stay?
Permanent. Every new ship will have a manual fallback. It's doctrine now.
Good. That's how it should be. Never trust a machine to do what a crew can.
He looked down at his bandaged hands, the same hands that had pulled the lever in the gas-filled chamber.
Just flesh and bone, and they held 1,000,000 lives.
The hands that had changed the galaxy now rested quietly, but they would never be idle again.
The galaxy won't forget what you did, Commander. Neither will we.
Outside, the fleet's running lights blinked in silent acknowledgement. The Resolute rested in dry dock, her hull scarred but her crew unbowed. In the cargo bay, they gathered for a quiet memorial, only a single manual lamp for light. Mark, still bandaged, stepped forward and read 27 names from a handwritten list.
These names are not just losses. They are the reason we keep our hands on the wheel.
No holograms, no AI speeches. Just a human voice, a creased paper, and the steady hum of the ship. Roland watched in silence, his cap clutched over his heart.
They gave everything. We'll carry them with every turn of the screw, every pull of the lever.
The null wave ended warfare for almost everyone. For humans, it just changed the controls, and on the bridge, the manual helm glowed with warm amber light, waiting for the next hand on the wheel. The ship drifted on, a single candle in the void. Undimmed, the manual helm on the Resolute still glowed with warm amber light, a beacon for those who knew. Outside the viewport, the dead Synod fleet drifted, a silent graveyard, stretching to the horizon. No engines, no weapons, no masters. Just metal carcasses tumbling through the void. The null wave had done its job perfectly. It killed every machine in its path, but it forgot the species that kept a manual fallback, a crew and a stubborn heart. In the end, they built a weapon to kill every machine, and humanity simply switched to manual. The Resolute sailed on, a single undimmed candle, into the quiet dark, and the lesson, written in fire and blood, would never be forgotten. The galaxy would never again underestimate the creatures who kept a hand on the wheel.